want a reference for best practices in comic book conservation? This is it, guys. Just came out. It's called Comic Book Conservation, Materials and Methods for Preserving Our Pop Culture Heritage by Dr. Shelby Thompson and Dr. Paul Kosnick, two friends of mine. And it has a foreword by Matt Nelson, president of CGC. And you see testimony from Matt Nelson, and you see it from Rick Morgan. Some great conservators are in this book, in other words. And the back of the book reads, "From wet cleaning to tear seals, leaf casting to ethical considerations, discover the materials and methods that will extend the lifespan of your collection while preserving its authenticity and value. With information drawn from scientific literature and expert insights, this is more than just how to guide. It's your journey into the future of comic book conservation." So, little known to comic book collectors is that a conserved comic book is not the same as restored. And actually, it will last longer on your shelf, far longer than a comic book that is not conserved. Because comic book conservation very frequently include things like deacidification of the interior and the cover. And by adding an alkaline reserve to the book, you're elongating the shelf life of the book. So instead of it degrading within 50 years, it'll last 200, 300, 400 years. You extend the life of the book. So you can see the book design is beautiful, right? Has in it an invasion from Mars theme, which I love that. And then this was signed by Dr. Paul and Shelby out of 30 deluxe editions. The spine is gorgeous, right? The quality of this is gorgeous. The printing is gorgeous. The colors are gorgeous. What can I say about this book? I can't say enough. Let me just show you the index quickly here and show you the kind of stuff you're going to find inside. These are the chapters, the contents in the chapters. So an intro to comic book conservation, applications of traditional conservation techniques, meaning that a traditional conservator will also benefit from this book, right? The foundation of comic book conservation, again, general foundations, cleaning solutions and deacidification in conservation. Very important chapter in my opinion, page 55. Comic book disassembly and staple considerations. Methodology of wet cleaning in conservation. Stain removal in comic book conservation. How important is this? It's beyond important, right? And this is really all explicitly defined in this book. Tear seals and reinforcement in conservation. Reinforcement of the spine, of the body of the book. All is discussed here in this chapter. Now, chapter 9, methods for restoration removal in comic books. Very often, restored books don't fetch more than 50% of the value of the book. And by removing the restoration, actually, and moving it back to conservation, you gain value in that book. The art and science of leaf casting and conservation, right? It is art and science, and that's discussed in chapter 10. 11, reassembly and reformation of the comic book. Very important to do that, to learn how to do that, and there are different methods of doing this. 12, conservation, restoration, and third-party grading. The future of comic book conservation and accomplishments from the community, page 227, right? And then finally, conservation resources, page 267. So you find a lot of things in this book I like, and especially that they included within it contributions from the community. Like here is the Batman number 52 that I had conserved, and you can see that they show the before and after pictures of how I did it, right? And they discuss my channels and other people's channels in this, including Larry Littlepage and Jerry the Jitterbug and Rick Morgan, and they their own channels in there, right? Liberty Hill Comic and Shelby's channel, Shelby's Comics, that he always ends his videos with peace, love, and comics, right? I can't say the way he says is like perfectly said in his case. And you can see in this here, the conservation of removing restoration from the Hulk 181 and conserving it by Jerry the Jitterbug. You can see what he did, right? This is how the book looked like after restoration, when it was restored, right? And this is removing the restoration and conserving the book. And they have stuff from me also again here. You can see Wonder Woman conservation, how it looked before. With all that staining now is gone, and they explain briefly here how I did it. You can see it in the after, in the pictures that follow. Right? Here's some pictures from Phantom Phil, before and after conservation work. He does excellent work, and he sends them afterwards to CGC, and it's always often, it's a wowzer when they get back, right? Some great work. This is Larry Littlepage, right? Some work here by Kenny Sanderson that they show also. And this is by Phantom. I confused it for Kenny Sanderson's, apologies. This is by Phantom Comics also. Very well done, right? Look at that. Amazing work. Here you find, for example, on page 15, some work done by Larry Littlepage, Flying L Comics, right? And keep moving. Let's open to a random page here. Let's say page 43. You find work by Immaculate Comics, Rick Morgan. Let's flip to further down. You find work by Shelby's Comics and by Liberty Hill Comics, explaining pressing and things like of that sort as a foundation. Beautiful pictures, beautiful graphics. And other people from the community contributed to this book, of course, including Jack, of course. He's on page 65, you find him. But seriously, you find like Mehdi Bouhalassa is there, and he has some contributions, and you find some other people in there, like including my friend Don Carter. I found him somewhere in here. Let me see. I think he was on page 157. Right there, Don Carter, right? How cool is that, right? Work by Alan Chow, for example, is illustrated here as well. This is mine. This is sizing of the Old Funny Comics #2 that I did. So there's a feature on sizing comics. And here's Jack Kirby. How cool is that, right? In the chapter called Stain Removal in Comic Book Conservation. I mean, a lot you can go through this book and find so much in there, right? Here's Alan Chow. Incredible work on Yankee Comics #1 showcases his expertise, right? Look at that. Look at that work. Gorgeous work, right? And he was able to remove the rust and rust migration using Evaporust, which was something I introduced into the community. And it has taken off since, right? Since I've attempted the experiment last year with it. And these are the tools used by Immaculate Comics that Shelby is using here. What else is there? I mean, I don't want to give out everything here, but more of Shelby's comics and Dr. Paul and Here's Phantom Liberty Hill Comics Pictures. Here's Phantom Comic Studios, right? Phantom Phil. There's a lot in there, guys. A lot in there. So I can't recommend it enough. So I don't want to show the whole thing, but clearly the book is a gem to have. And this is going to stay next to me for years to come. And Dr. Paul and Shelby has done the community a favor, has brought in the community into it, and has shown techniques that go beyond the average conservation that a person would do on a comic book. So in my next conservation project, which starts in a week or so, I'm going to be referencing this book as I go along best I can, because it has in it the best practices in conservation. And they have a segment here on a pioneer of comic book conservation, Kenny Sanderson, right? He does some excellent work and he's in high demand. And this is some of his recent work that he's done on conserving some important books like All American number 16, right? First appearance of Green Lantern. And here's some of his other work here with leaf casting and how he can do his magic, bringing in the cover, the two sides of the cover together through leaf casting to show you the final results. That's all there. And the funny thing about this is I just noticed when I was flipping through it is the chapter right before it is my work here on Detective Comic number 167. And they show you here how I did the leaf casting on the book, and I did it in a very precise manner in that the amount of furnish that I added to the to the cover on the inside resulted in the same thickness at the end as the rest of the book, right? So it's not any more thicker than the actual cover. So this is where Dr. Paul Kosnick discusses the use of pressure cooker basically to cook the pulp, right? Which is like, who would think of that, right? But it is traditional method used in paper making, including like when I introduced the idea of formation aid. Many people didn't know what formation aid was, but it's used in Japanese paper making. I used it here as an example in here to show that when you use it, you end up getting very smooth preparation of your pulp, and it's become very pipettable, and you could just introduce it and you get this even sheet with it, right? So it's really nice and done, and has been introduced early on in the paper industry, but later on adopted by Farnsworth, Don Farnsworth. And before even reading his work, I was using Formation Aid already, and I introduced it to the community last year, and it took off ever since, right? More of my work here, and you can see the jarring, right? You could make pulp and preserve it, much like preserve jams and things like that, right? So there's a lot to it, and I don't want to take away from anybody who I didn't mention in this book, but everybody was involved in this book in one way or another, and I think I give thanks to Dr. Paul and Shelby for doing an excellent job in this book. And also it's good fun.